Welcome to the Avista Senior Living podcast. This is our inaugural podcast. I'm Craig Ahlstrom, and I'm with the founder of Avista Senior Living, Kris Woolley.
Thanks, Craig. Nice to be here.
We wanted to get together. We were brainstorming recently on how we can help give information to our customers. This year's been a little bit out of the ordinary, right?
A little lot
out of the ordinary. So Kris and I and some of the team were experimenting or talking at Avista how we can help the customers know a little bit more about Avista Senior Living when there's not as much activity going into the communities as there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a result of that discussion, and we wanted to come together a couple times a month and provide some just insights. We just want to go inside of Avista Senior Living, and we thought there's probably no better way to start than to just get Kris here, who's been grinding away at Avista Senior Living for 10 years now?
Almost, a little over 9.
A little over 9 years. And we thought it'd be a good opportunity to start and let Kris share a little bit about who he is, how the company started, just give us some insights into, why we did this, why you did this, and where you see this Avista Senior Living train going in the future. So we have a few questions here that we're going to ask, and we can just have some dialogue. So, but the first question we're going to go into, Kris, is give everybody some insights into how you started Avista Senior Living.
Sure. Well, it's great to be here. Thanks, Craig, and a little shout out to you and Karsten Ellsworth for having the idea to do this. I think it's a great way for us to expand our reach and touch points with our customers and the people in the community. So it was a little over 9 years ago that we started the company, and at the time I was working for a big multinational company that focused on building and managing apartment communities. And prior to that, I had been working in the banking world in New York City and elsewhere, and I always enjoyed the teams that I was involved with and the projects that we were working on. But there was something missing in the projects we were developing. I always felt a little far removed away from the customer, and when I was with the previous company, it's called Greystar Real Estate Partners. We had this opportunity to manage a portfolio of age-restricted apartments, and that was when I had my eyes first opened to the senior living space, and it just really spoke to me. I thought that this is an area where I could really put my efforts and abilities to good use, and to try and meet the needs of the aging seniors that need a great setting and a housing environment and care. And so, long story short, I ended up, after some time, deciding to leave them and venture out on my own with the backing of a couple of great investors that are still with us today. So, that, in a nutshell, that's what happened, and it was the summer of 2011.
Nice.
So, we started with our first project, which is still in our portfolio. It's in downtown Mesa, and I should say, right around the same time that I was getting started, you and your partners and your father were starting your own senior living company out in East Mesa, and one of my investors introduced me to Craig and Craig Senior, and that started our connection and our relationship that several years later blossomed into us joining forces. And we always said at the time, "Gal, this would be more fun if we were doing this together." And I think having fun while we do what we do is an important part of what we try to do. And just like it's important for our residents and the staff members in our communities to try and have fun as well. So,
yeah, that's right. I remember that we would have weekly, well, at least a couple of times a month, Panera Bread lunches.
Yeah.
That we always go back to that quote. We'd have so much more fun together trying to figure out these challenges than if we were solo. So,
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, for sure. So, what do you What is the biggest contrast between your prior job and this one? I mean, a lot of similarities, but differences too.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
The similarities are the physical buildings themselves is a setting where there's basically apartment units, individual units, and there's common area amenities, a dining room or a lobby or an activities room and things of that nature, a theater to watch movies, etc., a courtyard outside, those elements were quite similar, and the maintenance and the care of the building itself was quite similar, but we focus specifically on aging seniors that need a little help, and maybe want to avoid the isolation of living in their own homes by themselves, and maybe want to be closer to family. So a lot of our customers maybe have moved from out of state to come here to Arizona or to Utah to be closer to their grown children who work and live in the communities where we operate. And so that's a very key difference, is the clientele, the customers that we serve in the senior living world are just that. They're the aging seniors that have lived longer than any of us and bring such a unique perspective. And each one has their own life history, which is so fascinating. And I feel like, relative to my experience in the apartment world, we are able to bond with our customers in such a unique and special way that is more meaningful than we ever did in the apartment world. So
yeah, that personal touch I've heard you talk about many times is very different in the senior living world that you're in now versus where you came from. A lot more employees needed to run assisted living communities too, right? I mean, what are some of the additional departments now that are in each community that you didn't have to deal with previously?
Yeah, so we have a whole resident care function that didn't exist in my prior world. And so we will have a licensed nurse or nurses on our staff in each of our communities, and they're available typically 24 hours a day. There's a whole team of certified caregivers and medication technicians that administer medication or support the resident in taking any medications or assisting them with their activities of daily living. And there's a whole dining component, which is very, very different in the apartment world. That wasn't part of the package that you were buying into when you moved into the apartment community. And in some cases, in every case, it should be, the dining experience is such a key part of what we do. Multiple times a day, we're producing meals and delivering meals and creating a dining experience that hopefully is very meaningful for all of our residents. And families, in a pre-COVID world, family members oftentimes will come and participate in those meals with the residents, and that's a special honor to be able to prepare the meals and serve the meals and provide that experience 3 times a day. We also have a robust activities or life enrichment program at each of our communities, and some of our activities directors, as we call them, or sometimes life enrichment directors, these are some of the most fun individuals that you'll come across. They wake up every day and they get to plan and carry out really meaningful activities with our residents. Just the other night, I took 2 of my daughters to our downtown Mesa location. We had a little Halloween event in the evening. The weather's just really nice outside right now here in Arizona. And just to see the joy in the eyes of our residents as they're socially distanced and proper, masking and so forth, as they're interacting and listening to a visiting, musician play music and so forth. So there's activities, there's dining, there's care. Those are some of the key features that are unique and special in our environments.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, the COVID 2020 that we're in right now has made activities and socialization a little bit more complex, right? Difficult.
Very, very difficult. But our people are getting so creative. In one of our communities, they ordered quail eggs from eBay and created this entire quail habitat in the community where these quails birthed and hatched and are now. And by the way, it doesn't take very long before those baby quails are able to reproduce, but we've gotten very creative to find ways of doing things where we didn't have to be thinking that out of the box before COVID really hit. So.
Wasn't that the Heber team?
That was Utah? The Heber team, Heber, Utah.
You got to give Kelly a shout out.
That's right, and Laura, right? Laura Child and Kelly Jensen.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. The creativity that we've seen this year has been phenomenal, and even though it's been different, it's been very awesome to see these people at the properties rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and that reminds me of something else. I left the apartment business and got into this world in large part because I felt such a strong desire to serve the customer, the aging seniors. And I know you did too, Craig. It was a big motivating driver, and it continues to be a huge underpinning, foundational driver of what we wake up every day and go to work to do. But something I didn't anticipate, which is super special, is the relationship and the meaningful engagement we have with the rest of our team and our employees. And we just mentioned a couple of them up in Utah right now, but we could go to any one of our locations and talk about our awesome people in each of those locations. And that has, I've always been a people person, and that's why I think this business is a good fit for me, and I know you are as well. But I didn't realize how important the connection between our teammates would be for me personally and for our teammates. And it's one of the most special aspects of what we do, and it really makes it meaningful. So the residents, the teams, all that coming together really creates just a super meaningful and powerful experience for everyone involved, and I think that's really something cool about what we do.
Yeah, this is for sure a people business. I remember being at an apartment building a few weeks ago, and I remember asking the director on site, I said, how many employees work here day to day? And he said like three or four,
Yeah.
And I was just like, a similar sized assisted living community had like 50 or 60 employees, right, every day that are coming in and out, and so it's a little bit more complex.
Well,
a lot of it more complex.
A lot of it more complex, and especially in a year like 2020, to see the way our employees have risen to the challenge of a global pandemic and relentlessly stepped up day in and day out. We talk about the heroes on the front line in the healthcare industry. While we aren't necessarily a kind of a healthcare setting per se, we absolutely are waking up every day working on the betterment of the health of our residents, and our employees are absolutely part of those heroes that we hear and talk about so much. And so this year more than ever we've seen it in action, and it's been really special.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. With 2020 and with the coronavirus situation, what other parts of the business have been different for us, in your opinion, this year? What else has been impacted regularly?
One of the biggest issues, unfortunately, is the reduction in visitation from family members and loved ones who otherwise would come and visit their loved one, the residents in our community, on a daily or very frequent basis. And so that has been a challenge for everyone involved, for the residents, for the staff, and for those loved ones who desperately have wanted to be with their mother, their spouse, or their relative, or their friend. And so, but again, everyone's been challenged in 2020, and it's been great to see the creative ways that people have been able to work through that and find different ways to bridge that gap through technology, through outside settings when the Department of Health Services has allowed for a little bit more relaxation on those visitations outside. We've done a lot more of that, but that's probably been the biggest, Craig, is the visitation.
Yeah, I could see that. A lot of the customers that come to any one of our communities come to socialize. They want to be with people. Many of them have been, at home more or less solo for a lot of years, for a lot of months, and so coming to a community, they had time to make friends and experience life in ways that they weren't, at their house by themselves, and so when all of a sudden we were shut into, all their own rooms, and there was a lot more isolation at the community, it was very challenging, and still it is challenging still, right? We're not finished completely with that.
One thing I'll mention on that too, though, I think as a result, I've heard feedback, I know we both have, from our communities that the relationships between residents and the staff and the residents has become all that more meaningful this year. during this period of more isolation. And thankfully, in our settings, there still are so many people living under one roof, taking the necessary precautions. We've had to really adjust our dining and our activities, but the residents have still found ways to bond in super special and meaningful ways, and likewise the staff and the residents. That already strong bond has gone to new levels during this crazy year that we've been living in.
Yeah, and all the other methods that people communicate these days too makes it easier. I mean, FaceTime and they're doing window visits. That's not technology related, but window visits have been stuff that ways that people have continued to communicate with their loved ones. But it has been totally different and challenging, and the teams have risen up and risen to the occasion. So it's been awesome, but challenging. So Kris, one of the reasons we're doing this is to help people know a little bit more about Avista Senior Living, about you, about the company. If somebody was researching an Avista Senior Living community right now, what advice or suggestions would you give them as they're looking to fulfill a need that they have or their loved one has?
Well, I think I would first start by saying, there's a lot of great communities out there. There's a lot of the people that are drawn to this industry are drawn to this industry for similar reasons that attracted you and me to this business. And there's a lot of our competitors are friends of ours and people that we have a lot of respect for. And so I think that's great. And I think everybody needs to do their own due diligence and their own research and try to find a way to tour the communities and get a sense for if the feel is right for you or for your loved one. And a lot of times there's multiple decision makers in the process, right? It's not just one individual deciding if he or she wants to move into our community or whatever community. Sometimes there's other family members or close friends that are, very involved and very much involved in the decision-making process. And so I think taking enough time to be thoughtful about, visiting the communities and meeting as many of the staff as you can. I think that is all to the betterment of your homework, so to speak. But as it relates to Avista and our communities, it's kind of, we have some that are very similar to each other, and we have some communities that are actually very different from the others. But we do have some unifying principles and values that we have really worked hard to infuse throughout the organization, and that we've used as sort of guideposts for us as you and your role and me and mine as we're leading this business. And maybe it's worth mentioning what those values are to us. For the first is kindness. We really strive to attract and hire and retain and develop and promote people within our organization that embody kindness and to their core. If that's not your starting point, it's probably not going to be a good fit for you with us in our organization as an employee. The second is dependability. We know, as we talked about in this year of a pandemic, we need people, and we need to be dependable to our customers and to our residents and their family members. Our business we operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a week, and so just having an underpinning of dependability is really important to us. The third is honesty in all of our relationships. And we understand that while we want to provide the very best experience for all of our residents and employees, sometimes we don't hit the mark. We come up short. And I think being honest and transparent with ourselves and with the people that we report to, each other and our customers, is really critical. So honesty is the third value. The fourth is innovation. There's a lot of change going on in our industry right now. A lot of really exciting new design elements and technology that's being infused into the operations, and telemedicine and things like that. And just in every aspect of our business, whether it's dining or housekeeping or maintenance or activities or the care, we want to try and be innovative in every little bit of what we're doing. And the fifth one, which I love, is mentorship. We and Craig knows this, he's wired like this as well. we really want to see our employees grow and expand the role and the opportunity that they have, whether it's with us or if they move on to something else in their career journey. We want to be supportive of that, and for the time that they're with us, we want to do all we can to help mentor and encourage them in their journey. So those are kind of the things that, values-wise really shape who we are and how we think about what we do every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well said, the 5 values. I echo everything that you said, and I think it's really important. So Kris, you mentioned that visitation is restricted at the communities right now. How does somebody who wants to get in and learn about a community even see a community these days? Like, how do they get more information like that?
Yeah, so historically, you'd go in person and you would take a tour, 30 minutes or an hour or more, and one of our community relations directors would be the point person to escort you or your loved one through that process, and we'd even love to have you come and join us for a meal at lunch or dinner, or participate in an activity. In some of our jurisdictions right now where we operate, that's not possible. And so we have, earlier this year, we made a pretty substantial investment to create a virtual touring capability where those same community relations directors can walk you through virtually, either on a computer screen or a tablet or on a handheld device. You can see and take a tour virtually of the community with one of our people explaining to you, well, this is our dining room. This is where we serve meals 3 times a day, or one of our dining rooms, or this is our activities room. And so that happens virtually right now, and we have a really kind of a slick ability to do that prior to 2020 we didn't have. So that was one of the things that came out that we innovated on earlier this year.
Yeah, the technology have really advanced. So it's awesome that people are coming in that way, can still see the properties as they do their research. Because one thing we know is the needs have still been there. People are still needing assisted living services, memory care services, but for one reason or another, they've just been a little bit more hesitant during this time, understandably, right?
Understandably.
And so there are still ways to poke your nose in a community during this time. It might be virtual, but it should be relatively easy if you just ask one of the sales directors or one of the staff members at any of the communities. They'll be able to guide you through that.
Yeah, that's right.
So Kris, tell us a little bit about your hobbies, your family. Give us some personal insights into who you are when you're not at work. You're busy when you're not at work.
My wife, her name is Heather. We've been married for a little over 18 years. We met in New York City, actually, just a little bit after September 11th when that all happened. That's a whole separate podcast. We can talk about that. But we have been blessed with 5 amazing children, ages 16 down to 6, and most of which are girls. We have 4 girls and 1 son, and they're the joy of our life. And so they keep me very busy. They keep us very busy, and with school and activities. And we live in Mesa, Arizona, and just very grateful to be along for the ride and the journey with all that entails.
What's busy, your work life or your home life?
Yes.
Busier?
Yes. They're both busy.
They're both busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, both seem to be very busy for sure.
Yeah. It's a good busy though.
It's a good
Thankful
busy.
to be busy.
They're different busies.
Yeah, they are.
For sure. Well, anything else, Kris, you want to say, or anything else you want to address? Like, what else are you thinking?
Yeah, I just think this is going to be a really fun and informative channel for us to allow different perspectives to be shared and broadcast through this podcast medium, and I think it's going to be really fun. And again, this is another idea that's innovated out of the 2020 pandemic year that we're in, and so I'm excited to be sitting here and visiting with you, Craig, and I'm just excited for the future. I know it's been a rough patch for all of us this year, but this too shall pass, and I think it's going to be a very bright future with a lot of wonderful things for us, for our residents and our teams, and the broader senior living world. in general. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, thanks for your time, Kris.
Great.
Good discussion. Stay tuned. We're going to come back with some more good content. We have a good lineup of different team members from all the different disciplines, and we'll have some other guests. And Karsten Ellsworth, who's on our team, has done a great job lining some things up. So we're excited to share some insights and info so you can kind of feel like you get on the inside of Avista Senior Living to an extent. So
sounds good.
yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
See you later.